QL all year, going back before the season, but just over yesterday alone, the NBA model 8-3 across all 3-star plus bets. That includes like over-unders and whatnot. They were just absolutely all over it. Remember to type in MLB is back for 20% off any subscription. You want to get that done sooner than later. You guys are missing out on some money. That was free money yesterday. Sheets and I talked a little bit about it. We're going to break it down a little bit today with NBA. We're going to get into some MLB. Sheets, how are you doing over there? And what are your sort of first thoughts on this overall sports thing we've got going on right now?
Well, as I mentioned yesterday, there's a lot to manage. There's a lot of sports going on, and there's a lot of projections to look through and a lot of slates to choose from. And it's just not you. It lends the question: should you try to be selective about what slates to play? Should you try to be selective about what sites to play on? I know it's tempting to say, we haven't played for so long. Let's just throw it all out there and play every sport, every slate, every site. But there does put a little bit of a time constraint on your ability to do the work, right? And which would lead me to kind of a promotion thing. And so for example, I was talking to my son about this. Now, he's just old enough where he's allowed to start betting and stuff like that, so he's asking me. And I said, if anybody's going to bet sports, which you probably shouldn't do, okay, you should let someone kind of do all that data work for you so that you don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. And I actually showed him. He's like, well, who do you like tonight? I don't know anything about sports, but BetQL says that the sharp money's on the Spurs, right? And he says, well, that game doesn't start till that game starts in 5 minutes. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. And the Spurs came out and they almost got the outright W plus all the points or something like that. So with sports in general, the more that you can have people do the grunt work for you, the better. And now then when it comes to DFS, then it's incumbent upon you to figure out how to put all that work, kind of into good lineups.
Right. Yeah. So, we'll get into the DFS stuff. We'll get into the straight bets today. Like I said, I mentioned this on the show yesterday. It's great to have a BetQL at a time like this because there are so many good bets to make in the NBA, and it's been wild. Anyway, we're going to get into, obviously, the Nets and Bucks games already started, and apparently it's kind of closer than I thought, although I haven't looked at it recently, and obviously that's subject to change in the next 5 minutes. So the first thing we're going to get into today, then we're going to talk about Dallas and Sacramento. We talked about this a little bit on an earlier show. This is definitely a game that you want to get exposure to. From a straight sports betting perspective, we've only got it as a 2-star bet here at BetQL. We are giving this one out for free today. The Mavs minus 5.5. And if you look at it, we've got some notes from the BetQL people. The sharp bettors are hammering the Mavs minus the spread. And I would agree that the Mavs are better than a 5.5 point favorite against the Kings. The issue I'm having with betting the game straight out is the Kings have a lot to play for, kind of. The Mavs don't really, but they're sort of just better. So I could see this game end up being pretty tight down the stretch. At least I'm kind of hoping for DFS reasons. So I'm probably going to lay on it. We got it as a 2-star bet here, and the sharp bettors are hammering the Mavs. I certainly understand it, but it's not one I'm going to make myself. Sheets? Well, it looks like we just lost Sheets for some reason, so I'm going to keep going and try and do the best I can to fill it until he does come back. I'm not touching this game from a straight betting, but again, like I said, I get it. In terms of ownership, I'm going to take a quick look at my ownership in this game. I didn't have a ton of interest in the first game. This is actually a really interesting game. I'm actually kind of looking forward to possibly watching it. So I'm going to take a look. Sheets is actually texting me right now. I don't know what I'm supposed to do while I'm on air texting. I can't text back when I'm by myself. But so anyway, so we've got – all right, let's see. My ownership is basically going to be heavy on the obvious guys, Fox and there won't be any shocker on Luka, but no one's going to play Kristaps Porzingis. And I say this on every show. I'm just going to tell you, the guy's put up so far in 2 games, he's put up 70 and 68 and 56. In the games right before the break, he had 2 bad games right before the break. Right before that, 65, 67, 75. And he had one of those games with Luka gone, but Luka was actually back for the other ones. I love Kristaps in this matchup. I love running him out there as the guy instead of Luka on DK, and I like on FanDuel you can play both of them if you want to and run back Fox or Hield or Bogdanovic. I like all of that combination. I think it's a really good DFS strategy. So I looks like Sheets is not going to be able to make it back and join us, but I really think that getting exposure to Kristaps Porzingis in tournaments is a really, really clever idea. Other than that, Rashawn Holmes on FanDuel, you can still make subs. Makes a lot of sense. I think he's had some subpar games, some foul trouble going on there. Tim Hardaway Jr., another guy who you're going to want to play more on FanDuel, but at 5.2 with no Seth Curry, it certainly makes sense. Tim and Fournier are in the same price range right there. So it's kind of an interesting way to go. I don't know. Personally, I'm going to spend my money on the Fox, Porzingis, Hield, Bogdanovich, and then some Luka combo. But I am a little bit lighter on Luka because we had a lot of plays today, including Giannis, who's already playing. But it's just a lot, man. It's just a lot to get through. I'm going to jump on into our chat because I haven't had a chance to get on in there yet for more than a minute. I think I was just there a second ago, but I somehow logged myself out there with the Sheets debacle over here. But if you get on in chat, jump on in, say what's up, say hello, say your hot takes of the day, say we suck, say we're great, say whatever. No, I'm just kidding. But give us the like, the thumbs up. It really means a lot. Yeah, anyway, so let us know when you're here. I'm going to put it in chat here. Say what's up when you get here. You get in. All right. Anyway, we're going to keep going. So you get my sort of stretch for that. If you want me to backtrack and you have some more questions about these games, I will jump back and talk about them for you. But we got to keep moving because we got other games coming up. We got baseball to get to. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on, and we've already lost my co-host for the day, so that's too bad. All right. By the way, if producers can do anything behind the scenes to get him back on, that would be awesome. I know some of his people were going to come in and join us today. So, all right, let's jump on over to the Clips and Suns. I am going to pull it up right now. So basically, you have the Clippers minus 8.5 versus the Suns, and it's a 229.5 total. If anything, I'd bet the under in this game, but I don't think I have any interest in betting on either side of it. It's a little too big of a spread. I could see the Clippers not having much to play for, using a lot of rotations. Not as interesting for DFS. Do have a little Paul George on FanDuel. Less interested in Kawhi, one of the guys I'm fading, so I can play my other guys who are in the last game, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But basically, that's sort of where I'm at today. I'm not trying to go crazy with spots I don't really like, pretty much regardless of ownership. Basketball's a little different than other sports where you do have to eat a little more chalk. But I already named, one big play that I was making by getting the Kristaps in there. He's going to be less than 5% owned probably. So I don't think that I'm in that bad a shape taking some of these other chalkier plays. And fading some other ones, like having less Kawhi than the field, having overall probably less Paul George than the field, but I do have him in some big lineups. DeAndre Ayton, I have a little more than the field, actually. I have Cameron Johnson a little bit, and no one's playing him. I think that could be a mistake. This guy could put up numbers even against a tough team. It's a bad matchup, but like at 4,500 on FanDuel, we just saw him put up 43 the other day. Let's give the kid a chance. Like if he plays minutes, he can get boards. He's a big kid. He can make some threes. Like there's a lot of things he can do out there to pay off that easy 4.5 price tag. So that's sort of the extent of my interest in this game. And Booker a tiny bit of Rubio, but like that's only when I'm playing 150 lineups, which is really only on FanDuel in that $3 tournament. It's sort of a bonanza. All right, guys, I'm going to take a quick jump over to Orlando and Indiana. Going to point out real quick that the over has hit 14 straight Magic games. That's incredible. It's great information from the BetQL people. It's one that I had actually been on myself as we've been talking about this for a while now. Since I remember when I started with BetQL, it was like 7 games. It probably should have been a lot more or a lot less or something. But we have had a long break, so it's been continuing for a while, and the Magic are just playing faster. Now, I want to point out, this is a lower total for some of the Magic games lately, but the Pacers have played really slow. They played Washington slower the other day. They have the more guys they get back, the slower they're probably going to play. I am not on board with the over, but I certainly understand it, and it has happened 14 times in a row, so it could prove me wrong. There is definitely some interest for an ownership in terms of tournaments today, but I don't feel like that. It just feels like too high of a total for these two particular teams, and I understand 14 in a row, but I think that's factored in. So I think that this is the time where that breaks personally. In terms of DFS, heavy ownership on FanDuel and TJ Warren, not on DraftKings. Heavy ownership on Malcolm Brogdon on DraftKings, not so much on FanDuel, but still pretty decent. Aaron Gordon, very heavy ownership on FanDuel, not on DraftKings. Heavy ownership on Vucevic on FanDuel, not on DraftKings. Heavy ownership on Fournier on FanDuel, not on DraftKings. medium ownership on Oladipo on FanDuel, none on DraftKings. Very little on DraftKings, I should say. Miles Turner, not all that much interest on FanDuel, who's going to be pretty popular, and not all that interested on DraftKings. That's the order of my favorite plays in that game. So we're going to be able to keep moving this thing right along. Remember, when you get in chat, get any questions out there, let us know what's going on. I know when we're right up to lock, it's like easier, but this will give us a chance to go through the whole MLB slate today together, and we can probably figure out some pretty interesting things in there. All right, let's jump over to Boston at Miami. I'm going to pull it up on the screen really quick. I don't believe that we're giving this one out today, but I just wanted to have something to pull up here because I lost my my co-host here. But anyway, you see it here that Boston is a 3-point favorite over the Heat. These are good teams. They're defensive teams. They're not teams we want to be heavily focused on for DFS. They're not games I want to really bet on because I feel like it really is a little bit of a pick'em. I think both teams compete, which makes a little bit of the DFS appealing, a little more appealing than it would have been. But overall, I mean, what's funny is my ownership page is not working over here as I share this. Sometimes it just hiccups a little bit when you get this live stream running. And just got a note in. That was one of the lineups that I was not waiting on. All right, let's jump right back to it. Sorry about that, guys. We had a little hiccup. Orlando, Indiana. Okay, so I'm sorry, Boston, Miami. What are we really going to do here from a DFS perspective? So Jimmy Butler on DraftKings makes sense. On FanDuel, I think I prefer like Paul George. It's close. Even going down to CJ McCollum, who I like a lot today. So I don't know that I'll get to as much Butler on FanDuel. Jason Tatum is, I think, really interesting on both sides. He'll be more owned on FanDuel, but still not that much ownership, so I like him. My wild card play is Kelly Olynyk, not just the revenge factor. He's been absolutely balling. Probably makes less sense on FanDuel because of his price, but on DraftKings, if you want to squeeze him in, I think that makes a lot of sense. He's been, 34 and 29 fantasy points the last two games. He's 3,800 on DraftKings. That's a great spot to try and attack like a potentially very low-owned Kelly Olynyk. We also have another guy guys who I like in this game on FanDuel, but not on DraftKings as much. And I don't even love them on FanDuel. I just like them. Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown, Goran Dragic, all in my plays, but certainly not priorities. I do think it's interesting that no one's going to play Goran Dragic and they're playing these other 4K point guards. When we've seen Dragic put up 31 and 42 in 2 games so far, even in limited minutes, not saying he'll do the same thing today, but I do think that they are utilizing him more in their offense. So it is possible that he could put up one of those 35, 40 fantasy point games for you and you'd be in great shape at low ownership. All right, we're going to move to the final basketball game of the day before we get into I don't want to say the good stuff, but baseball, the stuff that we don't know how much longer we're going to have it for, so let's call it the good stuff. We have the Rockets -4 at the Blazers. At the Blazers, I keep doing it, man. It's so hard to get into your head when you're just used to seeing the teams like this. There's no at. They're all in Orlando. Okay, we have the bubble game between the Rockets and Blazers in an absolutely massive total here. It's 244.5, and honestly, it would not surprise me at all. I'm not going to probably touch the total. It's too much of you're betting on a lot. Like, I don't know what you're asking for. That you're asking for, if one team scores 25 points in a quarter, you're kind of like in really bad shape. That could happen in just one quarter, and I don't know. It's a lot, but at the same time, I also think it probably will end up being over 250. Both teams playing really fast right now. We have a lot of interest in DFS in this one. I'm going to take a quick look at the projections and what I have in this game. Again, not one I'm going to make a straight bet on. If I was going to make a straight bet, I would bet on Portland, even though I've loved what the Rockets have been doing. But I like what Portland's been doing. I think their size, it's a very unique, weird matchup. And I'm a little worried because I have a ton of interest in Lillard in this game, Lillard and Westbrook pairing. But what worries me is that Nurkic could do a lot of damage against these small Houston guys. Zach Collins could even do a lot of damage against these small Houston guys. So I'm a little bit nervous, I guess is the best way to put it. I think that we have to go ahead and just kind of stack it anyway. Damian Lillard, if they're down in this game, is going to have to go nuts. And he also might try and just go nuts anyway. We've got his minutes projection at 39. That's crazy, but it's very possible. He played the whole second half last game. If they're down, that's going to happen if he brings them back, which that's like the best situation to play Dame in. And this game could just be really interesting back and forth. So basically, highest ownership in this game. Going to have players exposure all over the place. Highest ownership is going to be on Westbrook and Lillard, followed by on FanDuel, Covington, Collins, and Harden. I have all about the same interest of ownership in. Obviously, they're very different types of builds, but Harden and Luka, I'm probably going to be a little bit higher on Luka, but I think Luka's going to be a little more popular than Harden, if that makes sense, I guess. So I like both of them. I think that Harden, maybe you give the slight edge because of the game environment, but they're both great game environments. This one's just a little bit better. Nurkic, a wild card deep GPP play for sure on FanDuel. Not as much on DraftKings, but I still like him on DraftKings. I just think he's a great play on FanDuel, where center is not as strong. We have basically him, Vooch, and you go down for PJ Tucker, which I'm doing in some tournaments, and you can also play. I mentioned Vooch, but DeAndre Ayton, that's the other one. CJ McCollum definitely will be a little bit above the field. Will be a little bit above the field on FanDuel on Carmelo and not have him on DraftKings. I will be a little bit above the field on Gary Trent on FanDuel, which is like, no, there is no field. Then I'm going to have some PJ Tucker. I'm just going to take that shot. This guy could walk his way into a double-double in the minutes and the way this game plays. They're going to need his minutes. I'm a little worried about foul trouble for him. I have some pivots to Jeff Green on some of my DraftKings lineups, but it's hard because in 24 minutes you kind of need him to get there. But this is the kind of environment where maybe you could. So that's sort of where it's at. Overall, that's where you want your most ownership in the game. Biggest, contrarian play I'm making is probably Kristaps, but mostly other than that, just be getting overweight on the guys I like and being underweight on the guys like Kawhi, who I've sort of stayed away from. He's so cheap. I get it, but like I'm just sort of avoiding that. And I'm avoiding, I'm less on Luka and than I would be because I'm playing Porzingis, and I'm less on Harden because I'm playing Westbrook, but I do have all of those guys in my lineups. Anyway, guys, we're going to jump on over to get into the baseball slate in a minute. Remember, say hi when you get in the chat. What's up, Jamie? How you doing? What's up, Eric? How you doing, guys? Good to see you guys. Remember to like and subscribe, and please spread the word about BetQL. We're doing all this stuff for free. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to along the BetQL lines while I go game by game. So get your questions in, get your thoughts of the day in, all that stuff. I'm going to go to baseball in just a minute. I just wanted to make sure to add this. This is partly why it really helps to have somebody else on the show, because I have to enter everything, in the chat and try to do this. And then I've got Sheets who bounced out of here trying to text me, and I can't do all that stuff and keep talking. The worst thing is dead air. So I'm not going to let that happen to you guys. So I'm doing my best. But I was expecting a 2-man show today with this giant slate. Instead, we ended up with one. But you know what? We're going to make it work. We're going to jump over to MLB. I'm going to pull it up over here on my screen. We're going to talk through. I'm going to actually, we can take a quick, gander at these other games coming up. I have no interest. They're not on my slate, so I haven't looked at them. And I don't really have a strong take, but it looks like we do at BetQL. I mentioned 8-3 on the NBA games yesterday on the 3-star plus bets. Make sure to really remember that. This is a great system. Cleveland, I think that's a great, Cleveland's a great bet. -160 in baseball is not my favorite thing to do. But Shane Bieber, come on, this guy looks completely unhittable. So, yeah, I can totally get behind that. It's just not one that I had looked into, so wasn't really prepared for it. I do like it. I agree with BetQL here. And remember, again, I'm going to say this, 8-3 yesterday on the NBA 3-star plus bets. The 4-star plus bets were crushing at the end of last year. I mean, well, not last year, this year before we had the long break we've been on, hence my beard, which I plan on trimming one of these days, by the way. Anyway, I really like this spot. I actually, now that I look at it more, I think it's a great call to take Cleveland here. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I think Bieber is the better pitcher, so I like him. -160, I can afford it, so I'll take that shot. Red Sox Rays, another game that's not on the main slate today, and I don't think I would have had anything to do with it DFS-wise had it been on the main slate. You get the Tampa at -140. It's an 8 over-under. I would bet on Tampa to win this game. I don't know. Would I lay the 140? Probably. I think the Red Sox are bad. I've been saying this all year. Seems like a lot, but if you're going to do it, that's the way I'd go. I don't know what to say because I don't have the BetQL information on this one, but it is just interesting to note that. Anyway, interesting. All right, let's jump along because I want to get into the games I'm actually studied on, that I'm actually geared up for. And I think we've got some interesting edges we can talk about from a DFS perspective. Before I get into the main slate, I'm going to take one more quick look, make sure that some of the people haven't come into chat. We got a few things in here. Arizona loves Eric Johnson against, he says, the chalky Houston as starting pitcher. I'm not sure how chalky he's going to end up. I kind of think Arizona is mildly interesting, and I think you should go for it because if you want to play someone off the board today, this is the day to do it because I only have interest in a few stacks really from a logic perspective, but I think the Dodgers, I think that, and I think Arizona are interesting pivot stacks. My thoughts on a Marlin stack, he wants to play them as well. I don't like the lineup. It's hard for me to play lineups in DFS and try and win giant tournaments with guys who don't have power. So I'm a little bit less high on the Marlins. They're fine. It's fine. Maybe people are sort of off them because they haven't played them. Nobody's going to play them anyway. Just as a big slate, we've got some guys who are going to score some runs tonight. I don't know that I want to get on a full stack, maybe a small stack there with the Marlins. Appreciate the question. We'll get into some of the games I do like as we get going. We're going to move on over to the Mets and Nationals. Let's see. We've got the Mets. It's 8.5 total. Matt's at Corbin. I actually am surprised that the total. I'm a little surprised the total's as high as it is for the Mets and as low as it is for the Washington, which means I kind of think Washington wins this game. Corbin's hit or miss. He can actually get lit up, but I really like him for GPPs, and I really like him on FanDuel because I'm not going to bring it up on my screen right now, but if you look on FanDuel, the most expensive pitcher is Max Scherzer. And Scherzer is not pitching today. Patrick Corbin is, at least as of right now. If you just pivot away from that and play Corbin, who's not even on the list right now, I think you're going to, at least in the smaller field, like the larger field, smaller buy-in tournaments, you're going to get some edge there with getting some Patrick Corbin in your lineups. Just because I don't think people are even considering him. Also, he's expensive too, and it's not the best situation of every pitcher. So you're going to get really low ownership on a guy with the highest K rate on the slate, or at least I think he has the highest K rate on the slate. I'm pretty sure he does. I don't know. I'm factoring over the last year, let's say, or year and 2 games. But in terms of straight betting, I guess, yeah, that's what I would do. I would go with the Nats. I think that there's a little bit of edge for them there. So that's basically what I've got. Getting into the next one, we are going to talk about the Blue Jays and Braves. This is a weird one for DFS. From a betting standpoint, oops, I just got to move my screen over a little bit. From a straight betting standpoint, I think that, again, I'm not the biggest on you bet individual baseball games unless you see some sort of a little bit of an edge. And I think we found some good ones. But I think that this one is just laying too much for the Braves, even though I really like them. If there was anything, I would consider betting the over. Fried, I think, is an interesting pitching option for DFS tonight. What I'm afraid about with him is there's just better options, and it could go where I don't know. I'm not in love. There's a couple good righties on Toronto's lineup. They've got 7 righties in the lineup overall. I know Fried's been good against righties overall, but I'm just not in love with it. I don't know. I can't quite get myself fully behind it. I like the run total. I just think there's better options, maybe higher upside options. But I do think he is on your list. Like, he's a guy you're considering for sure. So, yeah, I mean, again, the Braves are probably going to win this game. I like the Braves lineup. They're my 3rd favorite stack, maybe my 2nd favorite stack in some ways. But I think that what you have to do, because it's hard to get some of these guys in if you want to play Coors, which I kind of do today, especially the Colorado side, not so much the San Francisco side. I think you're looking at Matt Adams. I mean, if you're going to spend up, it'd be Freeman, Acuna, and Albies. But I think you're looking at Matt Adams as one of your top plays on DraftKings at 3,800. Really, really like the price on him there. So that's one of my sneaky plays. By the way, as I talk about all this baseball, get your guys' golf thoughts in. Let me know who you think's going to win. I'm going to go with a huge upset. I don't even know what he is. He's got to be like 150 to 1. But like Fleetwood, in terms of DFS, is a great play, and I think he's an outright great bet to at least top 10 it, maybe even top 5. Anyway, we'll move on to the next baseball game. But just wanted to remind you about that. Also, remember to like and subscribe. I also want to remind you, take a look at if you are subscribing right now, you should take a look at the NBA, because they've been crushing the NBA since before any of us had anything to do with this site. All right, let's get over to the Marlins. I'm just taking a look to see if we've got some news coming in. Nothing special. Marlins and Orioles. This is the game that people are talking about that they think is the sneaky game, and I'm just going to chalk it up to a big slate, not interested in bad offenses as much. More interest in – that's it. I don't even know what to say. I think you can play some bats from this game. We mentioned VR, Brett Anderson, Starlin Castro, Santander for the Orioles. So I'm not going to recommend it. Now, Baltimore's a minus 125 favorite here. I like the idea of actually betting the Marlins in this spot. I don't think Means is all that bad necessarily, but I don't think Lopez is all that bad either. So neither of them are going to strike people out. That's why I don't like it for DFS. But they're also not going to get lit up unless it's the Yankees they're playing like Means had to face last time. And when Means doesn't have to face the Yankees or last year's Red Sox, he's actually going to show up to be a pretty decent real-life pitcher. So I don't like that. I'm not behind this game like everybody else is. And from a straight betting angle, I would look at betting the Marlins straight up in this game as an underdog. All right, we're moving on. I'm getting my games called up. Sorry with the screen shares, guys. It does take a little bit of a minute sometimes for the actual screens to light up. So bear with us. Here are two guys who I love for GPPs today, Giolito and Woodruff. Look, it's a good hitter's park. This is a game where I am not touching it. Milwaukee's a minus 135 favorite. I actually think if I did bet it, I would probably bet the White Sox. But I don't like it. I don't want to bet it. I like both pitchers. I'd give the slight edge to Giolito. That's where I'm at, basically. I don't really want to talk too much about things that don't really have any real relevance. Going to take a quick look at a couple things Eric said in chat. He said thoughts on the Marlins. We talked about that. He hasn't looked at golf yet. Woodruff, he likes a little bit today. Yeah, we talked a little bit about him. But, yeah, I like both these pitchers and definitely get behind it. It's actually a pretty good pitching slate, so I actually think your pitchers are going to get you like 40 points if you have a good lineup and you do it the right way today. But you're probably going to be mixing in some different variations, different combinations. All right, the next one, Royals-Cubs. Wind blowing drastically in 7.5 total. Runs being suppressed by 26% today. Home runs being suppressed by 28% today. This is a spot where you're looking at the pitchers, which is especially looking at Kyle Hendricks. I don't know how you don't play him on DK. Probably going to even consider him on FanDuel as well. He's my top guy on DK at 7,700 against this weak Royals team. Even if they get some hits, he's not going to give up much. Even if he doesn't get a bunch of Ks, I can see him just mowing through this team. We like KC plus the 1.5 run line at 5 stars. So that's kind of going to go against a little bit of my Kyle Hendricks. I'm going heavy on weather. If the weather changes, I can definitely get behind that. I'm just going to go heavy on weather. But I do think it's a really interesting 5-star bet is a pretty strong bet. All right, so you can bet the KC's over side of it, but I'm just not huge on it myself. I really think that Hendricks is going to shut him down. But I do get that he could still shut him down. And if they scored only, what are they projected at? Like just about 3 runs. So you have him at 4.5 runs. They could still score 4 or 5 runs, and he could be dominant. So, I mean, yeah, look, that's a very low run total for any team. And Hendricks is not like the best pitcher in baseball, so I get it. But I certainly wouldn't bet the under in this game. But I think I would maybe just shift to a general over and hope that the Cubs can get there one single at a time. That's my personal take. All right, we're going to move on to what is the most important DFS game of the day, whether you get it right or fade it. Whatever you're just making a decision on in this one, you're going a big route. We have at BetQL Colorado we have the under as a minus 4-star bet, and I kind of like that. I love Herman Marquis. I think that the Giants' run total is too high. The Rockies I do like today, and I think Gausman can get wild, and if he gets wild, this is going to be one of those games you need to have. So I'm going to be personally I get the idea of the under because of how low I think of San Francisco and how high I think of Marquis. I always get it wrong. But I think that's what your bet is. It's him. It's Herman Marquis, and the Rockies bats. And real quick in priority of bats, you're going Blackman, Arenado, McMahon. Depends on who breaks the lineup, but Kemp, I guess, would be in there because he's so cheap on DraftKings, but maybe not on FanDuel. But those are sort of the guys you're looking at. But you really want to be exposed to everybody on the Rockies if you're playing multiple lineups today. And I understand it's common, so I'm using a 4-man stack instead of a 5-man on my Rockies lineups, and then I'm mixing them in with Dodgers, a little bit of Dodgers, mostly though with the Angels and with Houston, which I don't think is going to be totally off the board. But I'm going to play the low-owned side of it with each other. You can always mix it in, like play the guys who are there's always going to be these under 10% guys that you can mix in that could do well for you. So I'm going to jump on this one. I do think it's interesting though, the 4-star bet on the under, and also it is a little bit. It's not quite the hitting weather you'd expect this time of year, although it is still good hitting weather. It's just something to keep in mind. So just wanted to express that one out there for you. All right, we got Eric asking another couple questions. How about Kendricks today in the next game? I love Kendricks. Yeah, he's got to be chalky, but I love him. Heaney is my other guy who I'm pairing Kendricks with most. You beat me to it. You beat me to it, Eric. I was going to get to that one. Quick reminder, like and subscribe, you guys. Make sure that you are following BetQL. You're not always going to hear about it from us on Twitter. So just in case, make sure that you are following us if you weren't already. Going to jump also on to the next thing. We have the Rangers and A's. Not a strong take on the hitting in this one as both of the pitchers a little bit, although I don't really want to play Luzardo. Just gonna steer clear. Matt Olson would be the only guy I play in this game. Make it really simple. Everybody's got Luzardo, including this is what we've got. We've got him projected at the top starting pitcher value on DraftKings and FanDuel. That's all well and good. I'm not going that route myself today. I found some other pitchers I like that I know a little better, so I'm going that route. But I totally get it. Love that call. And if he was going to be low owned or unowned, then you can maybe make that play. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So I really think that's an interesting call by the BetQL, RotoQL people. But I don't know that I can make that myself. Again, going to stay away from the bats in this one. We are going to jump over to the Padres and Dodgers. Guys, remember, this is something people are going to watch later too. So get your thoughts in so I can, in case there's anything you want me to point out or get some good questions in, because that's a lot of times my best way of working is when I can get some sort of back and forth and we can have some sort of dialogue and really figure out, the ways to attack these slates, these games, how we're going to do our betting for the day, how we're going to make some money. All right. Dodgers at Padres. Dodgers are minus 130. Over under is 8. Look, it's simply the Dodgers can hit power right-handed pitching. They can hit any right-handed pitching. Lamet can get wild. So the Dodgers would be an interesting 5-man stack, especially when they're going to be, they have a 4.2 run total, which you've never seen that low. Lamet's really good. LeMay, however we want to pronounce some of these names, it's really hard sometimes to keep up with the different ways people pronounce them. But I just think that there's no way I'm playing either of these pitchers. But I do think Dustin May will break out at some point. But I just think that you're taking some Dodger bats. I prefer Seager, followed by Bellinger, Muncy. Those would be my preferred bats. And then you can mix in anything else with the stack, depending on how the lineup shakes out. But in terms of straight betting, I wouldn't touch this one. I would probably, if I did, actually, you know what? Maybe I would. I think the Dodgers minus 130. I think it should be a little bit bigger favorite than that. I think they're factoring in the perception of starting pitching a little bit too high. So I'm going to go with the Dodgers in this one, and they're going to cover. They're going to win this game. So I actually think that's a reasonable bet. And, if you're going to stack the Dodgers, may as well bet them to win the game. Why not? All right, let's move over to the Astros Diamondbacks. This is my other spot here today. George Springer, one of my top overall plays of the day. I think he's going to be a little bit lower owned because the Coors bats are heavy. So I'm trying to play them both together, which means I'm going to have to find some value and use cheaper pitchers. I don't buy Bumgarner at all. I like Houston more as a mini stack, but it's the usual suspects. It's Springer followed by Altuve, followed by Bregman, and then you get into Correa's probably the next one, and then you can play Brantley because he's cheap on DK, but he's not as cheap as he was. All those guys are interesting, but I think I would side with Springer and Bregman being the two most priorities, and Altuve right there. But I think you only want to put a few of them. You could go full stack on Bum, but he's good enough ish. To where I'd rather take the power bats and get my home runs out of this game. So on the Diamondback side, I do think some people are interested. Javier, I know some people have interest. I don't have any interest. Just not how I'm building. But I do think on the Diamondback side, you can play Peralta, Marte, Escobar. Those would be the guys I would think of. Jake Lamb is really cheap on DraftKings for good reason. But not like my favorite game in the world. I do think the over hits here more often than it doesn't. But I don't want to bet on this game personally. And I do think that Houston should be a bigger favorite in this one as well. So I would actually consider betting on Houston's outright personally. We have the last game of the day. I thought I got my games mixed up for 1 minute. This is my other stack that I kind of like. So I'm not going to know anything about how I'm doing until like midnight Eastern time, basically. We got Heaney and Dunn. I'm a big fan of Heaney tonight. He's already pitched, he's been pitching pretty well. I'm not buying in this Royals lineup. I think that this should be a spot he should be in line to get the win. He should be extended a little bit more. The strikeout upside is immense. Yada, yada, yada. He's only 8K on DraftKings. He is a strong play. I like the stack for the Angels until you look at the lineup. But then you want to play, I guess Upton becomes a priority because he's cheap. Trout is just so expensive, but he's a great play. Obviously, if you're going to stack them, you want to play Trout. And trying to stack them without him is a little tricky. So Brian Goodwin would be another guy that pops.
How many trees is that?
So what just happened here? Did we just get Sheets popping back in?
I did. You know what? I had a full power outage. My whole office building, the whole grid. I got out of there because there was all kinds of damage in my house. I could barely escape the parking lot with trees all over the place. I drove through an entire obstacle course to get here. The barbecue is down in my house. The power goes in and out. There's literally zero chance this is going to hold, but I figured I would just pop in and see what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you're back, man. That was really, I didn't know what to do there for a little bit, but we got through. I'm actually almost through the final game. I'm actually going to finish this, mention, then we can sort of talk sort of overall lineup builds maybe.
Okay.
But the Angels, we have the Angels as an over-under. The over-under is 9. It's gone over in 5 of the last 6 Angels games. I don't know that this is a spot where I'd be trying to attack that, but I do think that's worth noting. And I do like the Angels bats today, which I already just talked about the ones I like. So we're happy to have you back. Real quickly, Eric Johnson says hi to Sheets, and he also says that he's opposite of me. He really likes the Diamondback stack today, and I'm not into it, but I certainly support you going for it. And I hope to see you win a tournament if I don't tonight. I love the idea of stacking a low-owned team, so I think you just go for it, buddy. All right, man. Let's talk real quick about just sort of overall. We talked about the NBA stuff a little bit, but let's talk about any NBA swaps we should be looking at before the 1 o'clock game first, and then we'll talk about some baseball.
Well, you tell me. I don't even know what the scores of the games are.
I don't mean that. I mean, is there there was some news, but nothing too dramatic. I guess it's nothing really too different. I mean, I guess I can say now some of the guys I had in the last game. I was very much into Porzingis, and that game's just starting. And that was my big pivot, and I talked about that quite extensively on this show. So that was sort of the way I was going. Just a real quick reminder while we're talking NBA, the NBA model 8-3 across 3-star plus bets yesterday. Enter the code MLB is back, and you'll get 20% off of any subscription. Guys, get in on these quick, and also get some questions in the chat, get some ideas out there, and Sheets, and let you take it away here with some of your NBA builds today.
Yeah, so I ended up fading the entire Brooklyn-Milwaukee game, which I guess I'm fortunate I did because there's this huge power outage, right? So at least I was able to be flexible. But I actually just got back and I missed Dallas-Sacramento. So I actually have to see what I even have room to kind of pivot to. But this was my idea. I identified 5 or 6 kind of the lower-owned guys that we talked about, and I forced them into 15% of my lineup. So those guys were I forced in 50, and we got to see how the ownership plays out. I forced in 15% of Bam Adebayo. I forced in 15% of Kristaps Porzingis. I forced in 15% of Devin Booker, 15% of Ricky Rubio, and 15% of Jimmy Butler. Just again, I checked ownerships again, and I just thought that those guys would be lower owned. Oh, and also 15% of Gordon Hayward, actually. So just to get myself a little bit different. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go back. The good thing is there's a full hour and a half between now and the Phoenix Clipper game. Yeah. So I have to look at that. Did you look at any of the secondary guys from Phoenix at all? Did you look at, we talked about Cam Johnson for a second.
Yeah, I played Cam in a couple, even a big lineup on DraftKings. I'm sorry, on FanDuel. And I also played a little bit of Saric at power forward.
Did you play any Jevon Carter?
I did not. Not on FanDuel. No. I would have. I thought about it. I think I might have him in one lineup on DraftKings.
That's what I mean on DraftKings.
Yeah. I don't on FanDuel. On FanDuel, I went so. Kristaps ended up 10% on FanDuel. I think he's going to be much lower on DraftKings. Even that 10% is a little higher than I actually thought it was going to be. So I built a nice. I can talk about one of my 555 stacks now because. So far, I've got I've got Chioza, who's got 13 DraftKings points or whatever. I did fade Kurix in this one, which I'm sort of wishing I didn't because he looks like he's going to crush. But I've got him in my other 555 on FanDuel, just not this one. But then I've got Doncic with De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Kristaps, and Rashawn Holmes. I just went hard for it. So this is my hope the Houston-Portland game doesn't play stack, sort of, because I wanted to get all these guys in together because I could see this game really shooting out too. Most of my other lineups are focused on that Houston-Portland game, but I just wanted to mention that because that game has started, and I do have Buddy Hield here at 2% at 4,800. So I'm kind of hoping, Sheets, can we get a Buddy Hield throwback performance for us one time, like a little 45, 50 fantasy point night against Dallas, who gives up all the threes? This would be a great spot for him. Oh, we lost Sheets again. So I'm talking to myself. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here soon. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to show real quick. I'm going to stop sharing one screen, and I'm going to show real quick some of my lineups. While I'm doing that, we're going to put it up on the screen. But reminder, the NBA model crushing as usual. So make sure that you are a part of this. And I'm really quickly going to show, I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it real quick. Oops, it didn't share that time. We're going to do it like this. I'm going to show where I'm at with my current FanDuel lineups, just because I want to talk about them. We can pull them up on their screen there if you don't mind there, Dan. Appreciate it. But yeah, guys, just take a quick look at this, and hey, tell your friends. Look, if you want to get free lineup advice, these are the lineups I'm rolling out with, at least so far. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to real quick flash to my DraftKings lineups, and we will be out of here shortly. But in the meantime, get some QQs up there in the chat. I'm going to get over there and take a look, and as I share while I'm sharing my screen, get some QQs in, and then I will, as I share my DraftKings screen, we can talk over that. Here we go. All right. So let's see. I'm going to take a quick look at the QQs. Looks like had a bunch of things going on with lately, but anyway, he said he played Robin Lopez and it's going horrible. I couldn't believe those guys were as high on that play as they were. I am still shocked this game is as close as it is, and maybe not having as much exposure might end up hurting me, but I just still don't think I'm too worried about it. I think there's a lot of plays to get on this slate. Anyway, these are my upcoming. If you get a quick glance at my upcoming baseball and placeholder lineup, and just one placeholder lineup. I've got a script running for golf too. And then we'll take a quick look at my live lineups real quick. And we've only got these two going right now on DraftKings for basketball played. Obviously, 190 on FanDuel. Didn't play as much on DraftKings. Am just curious what KP is owned into the city of the shoot around, not the big one. Because I do think the sharper players would have thrown in a little bit of KP love today. I just get the feeling they would have gone there, Anyway, I'm sharing with you guys here. So, guys, last chance for QQs. Any thoughts, please send them in to us. I'm going to point out to Dan, our producer, the chat's not popping up anymore from Periscope and Facebook and all that stuff. So we need to make sure to get that back on because I can't hear any of you guys if you are out there. So sorry about that. I would love to get your questions and thoughts. Kristaps, 7% owned in the shoot around, which is actually more than he was projected. I think we talked him up a little and he got a little traction going. But Dorian Finney-Smith, only 4%. Anyway. It kind of makes sense. He just was one of those weird in-between plays that maybe gets a little bit more usage with Seth Curry out of the game and maybe can do a lot in an up-paced matchup. That's why my thinking for that. Anyway, guys, with all that said, I hope whether you're watching this now live or later, stay active, stay involved in the show. Please ask your questions. Please get your thoughts in. I love all my people. I know it's been a while that I've been away, and it's sort of hard to get everybody back together again. But we'll have our old groups of our, a couple hundred people in chat and talking real soon. It's just it's going to take a little time. And Eric, I appreciate it. I think it's great stuff that we're putting out. I think we're giving real advice and our honest opinions in a very transparent way that I don't think is happening around the gambling world and the sports betting world, the DFS community. I think it's really important that, we are trying to be completely out there. What I say I'm playing, I'm playing. I'm not lying about anything. And I'm giving you guys helpful little hints that other guys aren't going to give you because they're not going to be transparent about their lineups and the way they build. Anyway, I don't want to say it as a defensive thing, but I think that people are missing out by not watching these BetQL shows, and you're going to, you get a great product from BetQL. I'm going to give you the free advice. You can watch the free shows for anything, but if you actually subscribe to the product and we talk a little bit more about it, I promise you'll be winning in no time. These guys have been crushing overall with their bets. So join the BetQL fam, and in the meantime, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, videos, all that stuff. I'm Bobby Fi. You can hit me up with any other questions or thoughts on Twitter. For Sheets, who couldn't make it the whole time, and for the people at BetQL, I'm saying I'm out of here, and good luck to everyone in your contest tonight.